Well, hey everybody, Tim Price here. Hey, I put up my little picture of Ghidra, the three-headed monster that I received on Super 8, and I received a couple emails and some questions in regards to Super 8 films. Now, I'm kind of an enigma. I've been collecting Super 8 movies since I was 10 years old, going all the way back to 1975. So I have a pretty big collection. And I also go to a lot of conventions and share these films and screenings. So I'm going to just share part of my collection. A lot of it's not even out, but these are the ones that I have out. So I'm just going to share some of the films I have. These are my extras. And these are probably what most of us are familiar with growing up in the United States. You could find these ones along with Castle films in the back of Famous Monsters of Filmland, all sorts of, creepy, eerie, whatever you could think of, from a company called Captain Company, where they would offer these movies for sale. So here are like my extras. A lot of times I donate these to G-Fans Helping G-Fans every year at G-Fest, and we actually do film packages with a working projector and like 3 to 4 Kaiju films. So these are pretty popular. The Castle films are pretty popular, like the Universal films, Wolfman, Dracula. Those were all Castle, which eventually turned into Universal 8. But then, like a lot of the Kaiju that we were able to get were from Ken Films, and these little small format film companies would strike deals with film companies to release these and sell them, and usually not the greatest of quality, but I gotta tell you, greatest thing ever when you're 10 years old and you have no other means of watching these films other than TV or the movie theater. You gotta remember, it wasn't like you could have any movie at demand on, at your fingertips like now. This is a lot different. We get down here, we get into some of the films that I have from other countries. Here, there's a company similar to Black Hawk or Ken or Castle out of Japan called Fuji Films. You've probably heard of Fuji Film. And this is one of my Grail films. This is actually Gojira on 200 foot sound. Awesome in Japanese. It's amazing. I love it. And then I have Ultraman. I have some Ultra 7. These are ones that you probably don't see every day or like up on eBay like you do with a lot of the Ken films. These are really cool. And these come in these clamshell cases that are made of plastic. So if you'd open it up and it would come with, like this one I still have like the little card, has a cassette. So these were optical sound though too, and I thought they were all silent, but when I got this Gojira film, I got an optical projector and found out that most of my Ultraman were sound too. But if you didn't have a sound projector, you could use the cassette tape. There's the film. Look at this little catalog with the films you could buy. So, and then a lot of us are familiar with the German release ones, like that came from Piccolo Films, came from UFA, ATB. Like these are awesome. So these are like 400 foot films that are color and sound, and this is 400 foot films, 400, roughly about 20 minutes. So 246, a little bit less. You'd get pretty close to a good chunk of these movies. So all three of these, this is King Kong versus Godzilla. Godzilla doesn't appear on any of the covers, which is kind of weird. And like here, some more German releases. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Same kind of thing. Then War of the Gargantuas. This is a great one to have. Godzilla vs. Gigan. Frankenstein's Harlenbrut. Godzilla vs. Smoggy. So these are really cool. A little bit harder to find. You get down here and some of these like marketing film and some of these other, well, actually mountain films like here, they were out of the UK. So when we were growing up, we never had King Kong that I knew about, but in the UK, they had marketing films where you could get like this film. There's a couple available. This is King Kong, all New York. It starts off from when he's on display and it goes all the way to the end of the film. And then you've got like King Kong Battles the Monsters, which is all of the Skull Island. So, you know, and these are pretty cool. And then down here we get into kind of like a lot of the Black Hawk kind of stuff out of Davenport, Iowa, which was usually more, for me, it was more like Charlie Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy, all that kind of stuff. So some really good films here. Here's Godzilla versus Megalon, awesome. And of course, if you're gonna go do a convention and show films, you've gotta have Bambi versus Godzilla, which I found on Super 8 somehow and I made my own box. So, and then over here, I have a lot of my films that I have put into white storage boxes, and I'll explain why, but these are more of my extras that I just have out. So a lot of them are repeats over here. But like a lot of times when I go out to a convention, what I do is I put the films in new boxes. So just generic white boxes, because those little boxes are works of art within themselves. And I want to show you something that I made with a lot of the box art. So I hope the glare still lets you see these, but what I did was I made these shadow box displays where I displayed a lot of my films, the artwork. It's really awesome. So you see all the different wonderful box art here. Come down to this display, I did catalogs from some of the catalogs I had when I was a kid. This was a big one right here from Ken Films. These were small. Most of these films that would come out were from Castle. These were 50 footers, but they're in the smaller boxes. Over here, I know we got some glare going on. Got my Godzilla versus the Thing signed by Akira Takarada, right next to my Golden Voyage of Sinbad signed by Caroline Munro. But I've got my Daleks, and over here a couple more displays that I made. And then here I'm going to tell you what these are, because even if you collect films, you may not be familiar with these. I actually made all of these boxes because these are the films that came in a 10-part series that was released by Toho. It was either the late 70s or early 80s. So you've got like Atragon, Monster Zero, not Ghidra, Monster Zero, Mothra, Rodan. Here we got, oh, I'm sorry, that was Ghidra, here's Monster Zero. This one in the middle, All Monsters Battle, was just a one put together with battles from Son of Godzilla, Godzilla versus Sea Monster, and Godzilla's Revenge. War of the Gargantuas, Destroy All Monsters, and yes, even Yogg, Space Amoeba over here. And I'm going to show you where these came from. So up here, see these clamshells? These big cases with this wonderful sonograph art on it. That's what those films came in. However, they did release some of them like this in just a little box, like right here. This is Destroy All Monsters from Japan. Here I actually made a little just dedicated to Ken Films release of Japanese movies. But here I'm going to show you one of these things up close. So these were just amazing. There's 10 of them in existence as far as I know. They did 10 of them. It was a 10-part series. And so they open up. There's the film. There's instructions. Actually, that stays there. But what was really awesome were these sonograph books that came with them. Look at this. Just big and so... When I think of Showa Godzilla, this is like, or Showa Kaiju, the pages are cardboard, they're not paper. Just, and a lot of this art was within the albums that came out too. So every time you got one of these films, it came with one of these awesome boxes. Isn't that cool? With one of these great books. So I've got 4 of them. I'm still looking for 6 more. That's kind of like my collection grail. And right here is my convention projectors. These are the ones that I all working projectors. All of these come with me wherever I go. If I have a table, a lot of times I'll put my little Delight screen out and set it up on the table and show movies. But these are all my working projectors. A couple of my screens, I got a couple 8x8s, but I just don't have them out. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I've written a couple articles for different magazines on collecting Super 8 films, and I got to tell you, it's such a passion for me that I just wanted to share some of this with you. And if you go to G-Fest, I know this summer in July we'll be auctioning off a projector, working projector, and I think we got 4 films. And I'm hoping also this summer that I can do a Super 8 screening of all Kaiju, and I'll show some of these rare ones that you don't see. This is my other copy of that one. Gotta have 2. So there's another Ultraman. That's one of the first ones I got. This is Rodan. There's Mothra. And I think this one, that might have been Destroy All Monsters right here. But, so anyway, I don't want to make this too long. I'm going to make a little video. I'll put it up and then you can see all of this stuff. So hopefully we'll see you at G-Fest this summer. All right, peace.